Hi everyone, it's Phil here from Ashland Leather, and I've got some really special small batch Tony the Ants to show you, and some Amaretto shell Cordovan with a reverse interior. We also have a brand new batch of some one-shot card holders that are releasing today. But before we get to all those, let's take a look at some of the items that we are shipping out today. I have 2 Johnny the Foxes, 2 Frank the Enforcers in shell Cordovan, 2 Chroma wallets, 3 very special Tony the Ants, and a Bugs Moran and shell Cordovan. Okay, up first today, this is a really special piece, and we're doing a small batch of these Tony the Ants in my favorite shell Cordovan color. This is the Amaretto shell Cordovan, and that's a very mild, sort of vibrant tan shade. It's got a little bit of orange to it, and I think for me that's what I like most about it, is the color. It's a really nice sort of orange golden tan. It's very nice, and what's interesting about it is the way that you look at it. The color will change. So some angles and some directions, the leather is actually a little bit more orange. In other directions, I notice it turns a little bit more red, which I think is totally fascinating. And what we've done for this special batch is we've included some reverse interiors. And I think this is the first time we've ever done a reverse Amaretto interior. You can get a look at 2 different ones here. They're kind of similar to the natural reverse, but what's cool about these are the dye marks on the unintended reverse side of the shell Cordovan are more of this orange color. You can see a little bit more, a little bit less on each of these pieces. So by the time you see this video, these really special small batch Tony the Ants will be available. There's only 8 of these that we made. So if you're into this one, I definitely suggest it in my favorite shell Cordovan color. And we have a few special one-shot card cases. And I've been enjoying the one-shot card cases as an outlet for us to express some of our creativity here in the workshop, because over the last 10 years that Dan and I have been working with leather, we've been collecting our own different pieces. And I think the one-shot card cases are a great way to show some of those different leather types and for you to experience them. We've also been trying to experiment with different stitching and different finishing techniques on the one-shot card cases, but let's take a look at each of these individually. And up first here, this is an intense blue shell Cordovan reverse piece. And this one has a really interesting contrasting orange stitch that I think pairs really nicely with the random dye marks and the ink stamp of the reverse blue shell Cordovan, and we have a few of those available. We also have another one with some orange thread, but this is a little bit different. This is an orange hand stitch, and we did a wallet a couple weeks ago in a private stock event with the same orange stitching, and people seem to have lost their minds over it. We've had a lot of people ask us to have a wallet made with this orange stitching. We have 2 black shell Cordovan one-shot card cases going up with this orange hand stitch. And here's another one-shot card case, but this is in the Kia shell Cordovan, and I think this has only been made a handful of times. I believe this is a prototype color that Horween has not really officially released. And what I like about this particular one is the gray stitching on the outside edge here. And I think that gray, there's something about the gray and green together that look really nice. Here's another special piece, and this is from a project that I worked on maybe 8 years ago. This is Chroma leather with a Scotch grain texture. And the color here is actually more of like a cobalt blue. So it's a little bit navy, a little bit aqua blue at some angles. This one has a blue thread, and I really like the Chroma with this texture. And here's another piece that I'm really excited about. This is a veg strip from Horween. This is a horsehide strip that was tanned alongside the shell Cordovan in the pits at Horween for about 2 months it takes to tan these. These are the non-shell parts of the hindquarters of a horse. So it's a veg tan leather with really incredible grain character. Look at just the depth of the texture there. It's a very pronounced grain and really bright shiny luster. These have only been made a couple times as well. I think there's only maybe 5 different horsehide strips that have ever been made in this color, and this is more of like a dark brown. And I have a handful of the classic color 8 shell Cordovan one-shot card cases. And the shells that we chose for these are a little bit on the thin side, but they're very bright and shiny. Just a really nicely finished piece of shell. These color 8 shell one-shots, they have some contrasting red stitch, which sort of brings out more of the cherry burgundy tones in the color 8. And here's another fun one. I feel like the theme of the day is horse. This is actually a horse front Chroma, slightly different than the steer hide Chroma. It's a little bit thinner, just inherently more thin on a horsehide versus a steer hide. But we also noticed that this particular piece is a little bit more grainy when compared to the steer hides. And this one has a contrasting cream stitch. Here's another fun leather that I don't think anybody's ever seen before. This is a leather called Mystic from Horween. It's kind of similar to the Dublin, it's similar to the vintage, similar to the Essex leather. But what this is very polished and smooth. Take a look at how sleek and polished down the grain is on this. And this one's also been tumbled a little bit, so we get this interesting sort of color depth on the peaks of this texture. They're a little bit darker on the peaks and a little bit lighter underneath, but it's a sort of pale red color is how I would describe this one. And the last two one-shots to show you today, this is Color 8 Reverse Shell Cordovan. And we really liked all these random marks that were on a couple pieces of Color 8 Reverse here. You can see these little hash marks on the backside here, all the random dye marks as well. And the Horween ink stamps on this particular batch are very pronounced. Usually they're not this bold, but I think these one-shots turned out really well, and these are all available on the website right now. All right, let's move on to some of the wallets that we're shipping out today, and there's two incredible Frank the Enforcers here. This one first is in the intense blue shell Cordovan. Take a look at this beautiful color. This one is a little bit more aqua blue than most with that darker navy on the surface, so it's got a really nice depth of color. And what's extra special about this guy is the hand-stained edges. And I just think these edges turned out really, really well. I like how the color matches, the edge color matches the shell color. And the other Frank the Enforcer, this is a whiskey shell Cordovan, really nice golden brown color on this one. Again, with nicely finished edges here, but these are not stained at all. It just so happens that the whiskey shell Cordovan and the natural shell Cordovan, the cross sections look pretty similar to the shell color. And I have three really interesting Tony the Ants to show you. This first one here is intense blue shell Cordovan, again with that hand stained edge. I really like this look where the edges match the color of the shell Cordovan of the wallet. Here's another one, black shell Cordovan with that, again, hand stained edge. There's a little bit of an upcharge that we do for these, but I think the look is really sleek. On the inside here, this has got a cool color combo with the black shell and what looks like whiskey shell Cordovan underneath it. And the last one to show you today is another whiskey shell Cordovan piece. Really great piece of golden brown shell here. The whiskey shell is tough to get, so it's really special when we get to see a piece like this. And on the inside, I like this choice of a reverse interior on one side. And I like that because the way that the reverse wears when pressed against a shell is better than shell on shell in my experience. I think these are a little bit more easily filled in once they get scuffed and scratched. And here's another Bugs Moran in whiskey shell Cordovan. The whiskey seems pretty popular today. On the inside here, we have the combo of the two colors here, intense blue shell Cordovan and whiskey shell Cordovan. And let's take a look at these Johnny the Foxes. There's two really interesting Johnny the Foxes. This is a 100% Color 8 shell Cordovan Johnny the Fox, and these have been very popular in the last month or so. We were able to make a nice batch of these a couple months ago, and it's tough for us to make these because of all these layers of shell Cordovan on the interior. We have to pick these to be specifically thin, otherwise this wallet just bulks up and gets way too thick. So we did make a nice batch of these a few weeks ago, probably about 6 or 8 weeks. And now we only have a couple left, so I can't wait for you to have this Johnny the Fox. And I want to show you another one. This is one of my favorites. Another intense blue shell Cordovan piece, but this is on the Johnny the Fox. That really vibrant blue shade of the intense blue I think is really neat. And what happens when we pair this with a mock horsehide interior, that's the color of this sort of sand shade. There's something about that mock that makes the vividness of the blue pop even more. Let me give you a better look at the interior here. Okay, the last two pieces, these are natural Chroma, and it's sort of like father-son here. The Fat Herbie and the Tony the Ant have very similar aesthetics. I'll give you a look at the exterior here, because the Fat Herbie was the first wallet we started making. It has this unique exterior bill slot that a lot of people liked, but they wanted a little bit more of a minimalist form factor. And that's how the Tony the Ant was born. We took the same aesthetic of the Fat Herbie and sort of translated the size down. And that's how the Tony the Ant came out. And these are both in the natural Chroma, so it's a nice comparison between the two models. Let's compare the inside, because this is where the difference happens quite a bit. On the inside, the Fat Herbie has 4 card slots, And these are not stacked on top of each other, so this wallet just lays thinner in a back pocket wallet, or in a front pocket wallet, I suppose. But I suggest the Fat Herbie for anybody that likes to wear their wallet in a back pocket like I do. And on the Tony the Ant, we weren't able to do that same layout because the form factor is shrunken down, so we stacked 2 cards on each side to get this more modern, unique wallet style. So those are all the wallets that we're shipping out today, including the new one-shot card cases and this small batch of Amaretto Shell Cordovan. I'm really, really excited about these. Hope you're able to pick one up. And until next time, I hope you guys have a good one.